Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experiences at Lilydale Assembly this summer. So I went in August for 5 days, third week of August, Wednesday through Saturday. And Lilydale, to give you some background, Lilydale is a pretty well-known spiritualist camp, town, community, whatever you want to call it. It is run by the Spiritualist Church, and spiritualism started, I believe, in the 1830s or 40s, but Lilydale got its start in 1879. So if you've ever seen any old photos, ghost photos, spirit photography, they were kind of well known for that in the 1880s and 90s. Mary Todd Lincoln consulted a spiritualist after Abraham was assassinated. So it has a pretty mixed history. Some of it was debunked, some of it has not been debunked. But anyway, that's the Church of Spiritualism. So they run this town, and most of the homes are occupied by mediums or spiritualists, those with abilities, healers, psychics, a little bit of everybody. So every psychic or medium kind of wants to go to Lilydale at some point in their career. So this year I'm doing my bucket list items. Um, so I decided I am doing it. So a few friends that had been interested couldn't go. I still went by myself. So it's kind of like Chautauqua, which is to the west. It's a big lake there, but they have the Chautauqua Assembly every summer, and it's a literary festival. So they have authors come and speak, Q&As, lectures, the whole summer long. So Lilydale, same thing, except it's more spiritualist topics, psychics, mediums, abilities, developing yourself, that kind of thing. So they have a whole summer program, I think from June through September. So I spent some time trying to figure out when I wanted to go. This year, Chip Coffey was there for a year. If you've seen him from Psychic Kids or um, some of these other shows. What's the other show? Anyway, he's been on a few shows. And then Cindy Kaza, who's now on the Dead Files, started on the Holster Files. Um, she was going to be there this year, third week of August. And so I started picking through which classes I wanted. I finally picked the third week of August because Cindy was going to be there and a few relevant classes would be held. One of them being why won't they talk to me? So your spirit guides, your guardian angels. I have that problem a lot, as you've probably heard on my other videos. I don't get a lot of responses to certain things. So I said, I'm taking a class, hopefully I can figure this all out. Plus, it had been a while since I've been really actively trying to develop my abilities. So I figured this might be a wake up call for me. So anyway, I went out third week. I got there on Wednesday. First class was Wednesday night. Two mediums from Boston with pretty heavy accents did a ghost hunting class, mediumship and ghost hunting. So it was more ghost hunting than mediumship. But most of this class was talking about haunted locations. They showed some photos, some video, EVPs they captured. And then they had the equipment, and they passed around the equipment for everyone to check out. And so some of the equipment included divining rods, which are metal rods, usually copper, with a sleeve or a pipe on one end so you can hold it. And these rods are free to do whatever movements they want. So divining rods have been used for finding water. They've been finding utilities underground, any basic electric energy, electromagnetic energy, they will react. So I didn't want to touch any of this equipment because I knew it might go bonkers. So someone stuffed the divining rods into my hand anyway, and as soon as I grab them, they start spinning around like there's no tomorrow. Like two tops going off in my hands. Felt like a helicopter. So I said, nope, 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 take these away from me, take these away from me. It's like, those went crazy. I know. That's why I don't touch this stuff. So it was an interesting class and a good introduction to the rest of the week. Anyway, the next day, hung out, took a few classes. They do their church services several times per day, which involve three or four mediums, sensitives, psychics, going up and doing gallery readings for the attendees. So it's one big psychic fair, basically. So I popped into some of those. And that evening they had a psychic fair where you could pay $20 and get a 10-minute reading. So I got in line for that, signed up, and I got my first reading. And older gentleman, and he told me right off the bat, "Your uncle's here." I'm like, which uncle? I don't know which uncle. He's trying to describe me. He looks kind of like you, but older, obviously. Um, but yeah, your uncle's here. And then he told me a few other things that didn't quite make any sense. But I said, I'm getting a second opinion reading. So I got back in line and I got a second reading with another medium. And the first words out of her mouth were, "Your uncle's here." Okay, which uncle? So she's going through and she's trying to figure out. It says, like, she gave me a name. It's like, okay, that's my cousin's name. I didn't say anything. I said, that's my cousin's name. It's his father. Like, oh, my uncle from next door that passed away shortly after my father did, which I know I've discussed in another video. I've also talked about how I had a very vivid dream or visitation from him one night. I was upstairs in our house in Connecticut in a bathroom that we were planning to build but never did. So I walk out of the bathroom to the top of the stairs, and there he is standing right in front of my face, extremely vivid. I could see every pore, every eyelash, everything. And he's just standing there with this look of terror on his face. And it shook me to the core. And I assumed he had not crossed over. So I don't know. I don't recall what I said or did, but take him. He needs to go to the light. Anyway, so yeah, your uncle's here, and it's him. I'm like, okay, is he safe? Is he in the light? Has he crossed over? Oh yeah, he's fine. He's all excited for you, but yeah, he's here. He's here. He's with you. Like, okay, good. I guess we crossed him over then, so that was a relief. And then she said, "Your mother and her psychic are here." And again, if you've seen another video, my mother moved to Florida in 1989. Her second day, she went to the mailboxes, and another lady comes up and says, "Oh, hi, I'm Dorothy. What's your name?" "Oh, I'm Mary." "Oh, nice to meet you," and all that. It's like, "Well, I'm a psychic medium." "Really?" So my mother got to know her pretty well, and she described my deceased grandmother standing behind my mother, to which my mother replied, "Oh, yeah, that's my mother. She's with me all the time." No big whoop. So anyway, mom started to take classes with Dorothy, and then I got to know Dorothy pretty well. And she always had her Indian guide that would throw up a smoke signal. It's like, okay, he's telling me there's a parking spot over there, and we would go all the way across this, parking lot with hundreds of cars in it, and boom, there's a spot every time. So I got to know her pretty well over the years. But anyway, yeah, so they show up at this reading. Your mother and her psychic are here. Like, I know exactly who you're talking about. So it was a much more interesting reading the second time. So that was Thursday night. Friday morning, I took a class, the class on how to, why aren't they speaking to me? The talking with your spirit guides and angels. And so the lady was from Atlanta, she was very good. And you'd think I could remember her name. Nah, I'm just going to mess it up. Can't remember her name. I'll see if I can put it in the uh, text below when I publish the video. But very good. She taught a whole class about 45 minutes in. And she says, okay, now we're going to practice and you're going to read the person next to you. Great. So I said, I'm not getting anything. I know I'm out of touch, out of shape. I'm not in tune with anything. I don't expect anything out of this. So I told the woman that there. So I said, why don't you go first and try to read me? So she read, Boy Scout, you and your brother were on your own a lot, and basically pretty much described my childhood. Since we had 4 acres of woods, we were always up in the woods. We weren't always playing with the other kids or even my cousins in the neighborhood that often. So pretty spot on. Then it's my turn. So I'm closing my eyes and I'm trying to read and I say, okay, give me something, give me something, give me something, show me something. And I saw the word native pop up. And then I felt and kind of saw in the corner of my eye, my mind's eye, my mother and Dorothy. They're there. They're showing up. Mom and her psychic. So they start giving me some images. So I see a manufactured home on a lot with a few pine trees, and then I see just nothing but grassland everywhere. And so I'm describing this to her. I said, I'm getting the word native, and I'm seeing a small home on a flat lot with lots of fields behind it, very flat area, like plains or something. And it just occurred to me. I said, well, since they're here, I'm going to tell their story on how they met. So I told the story of them going to the mailbox and her telling my mother that her mother's always with her. And I just continued going on, not really knowing what I was saying. And I said, okay, I sense that this is a parallel for you. I don't know if your mother is past, but I feel she's with you. And I think we have parallel stories. My mother's with me. Her mother was with her. I think your mother's with you, and always looking out and guiding you and being there with you. So that's what I'm picking up. And then I said, is any of this making sense to you? And I opened my eyes, and the woman was sobbing. Like, okay, what? And she said, "Oh, I always thought my mother was with me, and you just confirmed that for me. And it's I'm so glad she's with me because I never knew, and I think yes, 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 everything you said just resonated." And she says, "I'm from the Plains out in Saskatchewan," and she came in for Lilydale conference, and she also said, and I can't remember the name, Muta. There's a term for Canadians that are half English, half Native. And apparently, one of these groups that's been put down over the years. And so they're trying to fight for their identity and bring it back to prominence again. So she said, I'm Muka, and, I'm half Native. And absolutely. And then she showed me all the jewelry. She said, did you pick up any of the jewelry I'm wearing? And she had a few necklaces on and a pin of a blue t shirt. And I said, I honestly don't know what any of those mean. Her shirt did say Puerto Vallarta on it, a t-shirt. And I said, honestly, I thought you may have been Mexican because I saw Puerto Vallarta. Either you went there, whatever. So, she laughs a little bit, but she says, no, she goes into the causes for behind the native schools and how they're still finding graves behind these native schools in Canada. And we talked for a good while after that. So she got something, I got something. So then after that, we have to relate our experiences. So we're both still crying at that point, and we give our experience. And then the person after us makes the comment, gee, all I saw was a brown barn. I feel inadequate now. So, like, sorry. So after class is over, I go outside, and they have these little parks, and they have benches. So I sit on the bench, and I've got my tobacco pipe. So I'm just trying to recover from what happened. And as soon as I sit down, I start relaxing. Boom, boom, boom. My mother, Dorothy, and I felt my friend's mother, who has come to me several times, all standing behind me. And again, it wasn't the white light feeling, but it was damn close to it. And I burst into tears again. Like, oh, thank you for coming. So I felt compelled to go back into the building and tell the medium who was teaching what just happened. So I did. And she said, well, that's so wonderful for you, honey, and all that stuff. I just had to tell you what was going on. I'm still sobbing in front of everybody. So after that, I felt more purposeful. I felt like my purpose had been restored. I felt more in tune after that point. I felt more open after that point. Like I'd reestablished the communication links with above. And it felt more Lilydale, the town, felt more relevant to me. Like I was just visiting before, but now it's just like, wow, I can really see some roots here. Like I felt like I belonged in Lilydale. So that was pretty profound. The last class I took was that Saturday afternoon with Cindy Kaza, and she taught a psychometry class. And so there was another lady who I'd met at lunch, Mary, and she sat next to me. It's like, oh, hey, how's it going? It's like, okay, let's see what we get out of this. So they did some psychometry, and Cindy's talking about how she connects and what kind of information she gets and how to pursue different avenues of information. Okay, you felt it was hot. What does hot mean? Pursue that. So it was a very good class. and then we have to turn and then give each other something of ours to read. So again, I wasn't expecting much. I picked up on like Pittsburgh steelworker um, grandfather, and none of that was relevant to the person, except her father was uh, auto assembler for Ford, but in Cleveland area or Buffalo, somewhere close by. Anyway, but she reads me and she says, "I'm picking up Civil War." She said the same thing about growing up. You know, we were either Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, which we were not, but we basically lived in the woods and built forts and all that stuff. So we're Cub Scouts without being Cub Scouts. Picked up on all that and then said, "I'm picking up Civil War, and there's someone here, and they're telling me they reconnected people. They reconnected people." And as soon as she said that, bam, light went off in my head. And I'm descended from Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross. She was a nurse during the Civil War, got the whole nurse movement going. And then she spent her years after the war reuniting remains, bodies, lost soldiers with their families, and corresponded with the families and made sure, matched everyone up, and then made the arrangements to have um, the remains shipped back to the family again, or have the person reunited with their family again. So that's what she did. Her office is in DC. They found it, I think, in the 60s in a walled up part of a building. And I think it's a museum now. So I need to get there. But as soon as she said that, bam, I knew exactly who she talked about. So we related the tales, of course. And again, surprised a lot of people, including us, that had happened. So anyway, did take another class with Cindy. Talked again about paranormal. She talked about paranormal investigations and being a medium and what that's like, what skills are involved. And so we had a few discussions about the Warrens Occult Museum, because I told her I'd been there, what kinds of prayers they were saying around these objects to contain the auras and the evil energy. And really good discussion, really good class. Really enjoyed my time there. So after the psychometry class on Saturday, I drove back to Illinois. So very good, very good experience there at Lilydale. I definitely plan on going back next year now. I can see this becoming an annual thing. But if you have any inkling, any thoughts, even if you don't think you have um, a lot of abilities, you may go and take a few classes and find out otherwise. So definitely recommend that. But that was a very good experience for me at Lilydale. Really helped me reconnect. So if you've been to Lilydale, write a comment and tell us your experiences.